Welcome back to the Deep Dive Podcast. I'm Eric, joined as always by Anna.
Great to be back.
Anna, it feels like everywhere you look in the pharmaceutical industry right now, someone is talking about GLP-1 therapies.
They really are the topic of the moment, whether you're reading industry news, attending conferences, or speaking with pharmaceutical leaders. GLP-1s are dominating the conversation.
And most of the headlines focus on the clinical and commercial success.
Exactly. But what's happening behind the scenes is equally interesting. Manufacturers are facing enormous pressure to keep up with demand that has grown faster than almost anyone anticipated.
Which sounds like a good problem to have.
It is, but it's also creating some of the biggest manufacturing and supply chain challenges we've seen in years.
So today we're talking about what happens after a therapy becomes wildly successful.
That's right, because at that point, the challenge isn't developing the therapy anymore. The challenge becomes manufacturing enough product, maintaining quality, securing materials, and doing it all while staying compliant.
We recently worked with an organization that found itself in exactly that situation.
They had a GLP-1 therapy experiencing rapid market growth. Demand was increasing, new markets were opening up, and leadership realized their manufacturing infrastructure wasn't built for the volume projections they were now facing.
And I imagine that's becoming more common across the industry.
Very common. Many companies originally built capacity based on much more conservative forecasts. Then demand exploded.
So what's the biggest misconception companies have about scale-up?
Probably that scaling is simply a matter of adding equipment or expanding facilities.
Which sounds reasonable.
It does, but pharmaceutical manufacturing doesn't work that way. Every expansion creates new validation requirements, new training needs, new quality oversight activities, and new regulatory expectations.
So every step forward introduces additional complexity.
Exactly.
Where did this organization start?
The first step was understanding where the bottlenecks actually existed. Everyone assumes they know the problem, but until you evaluate throughput, equipment utilization, supplier dependencies, and operational workflows, you're really just guessing.
Interesting.
And what we found was that some of the biggest constraints weren't necessarily where leadership expected them to be.
That's usually how it works.
For sure. Sometimes the issue isn't production capacity. Sometimes it's warehousing, cold storage, staffing, supplier lead times, or material availability.
Let's talk about supply chains because that seems to be a huge part of this story.
It's a massive part of the story. Even if you successfully increase manufacturing capacity, you're still dependent on suppliers, packaging vendors, logistics providers, and specialized materials,
And everyone is competing for the same resources.
right? The more successful GLP-1 products become, the more pressure gets placed on the entire ecosystem supporting them.
So supply chain resilience becomes just as important as manufacturing capacity.
Absolutely. If a critical supplier experiences delays, your manufacturing schedule can be affected almost immediately.
What are organizations doing to address that risk?
They're investing in stronger supplier qualification programs, improving visibility across their supply networks, implementing risk management strategies, and building more proactive relationships with critical vendors.
That makes total sense.
Reactive supply chain management just doesn't work in a high growth environment.
Another challenge we hear about frequently is technology transfer.
And that's a major one. As companies scale production, many need to expand into additional facilities or work with multiple manufacturing partners.
Which sounds straightforward until you start getting into the details.
Precisely. Technology transfer isn't just handing over a manufacturing process and hoping for the best.
There's a lot more involved.
A lot more. You have process consistency, equipment compatibility, operator training, validation requirements, quality system integration, and ongoing oversight.
Because every site has to produce the same product at the same quality level.
Every single time.
Let's shift into compliance because rapid growth can create risk.
It absolutely can. In fact, some of the highest compliance risks emerge during periods of rapid expansion.
Why is that?
Because organizations are under pressure. Production teams are trying to increase output. Engineering teams are implementing new equipment. Supply chain teams are managing shortages. And quality teams are supporting validation efforts.
It sounds like everyone's moving fast.
Exactly. And when everyone is moving quickly, small gaps can begin to appear.
Things like documentation issues?
Documentation, change control, supplier oversight, training records, validation activities. None of these issues are intentional, but operational pressure can expose weaknesses.
And regulators understand companies are growing quickly, but expectations don't change.
That's exactly right. Regulatory agencies recognize the demand challenges surrounding GLP 1 therapies, but they still expect validated systems, strong quality oversight, traceable data, and effective process controls.
So basically, growth doesn't eliminate accountability.
Not in the slightest.
Another thing that stood out to me from this project was the importance of operational alignment.
That's one of the biggest lessons. Scaling manufacturing isn't just a manufacturing activity anymore.
It's an organizational activity.
Absolutely. Operations, quality, supply chain, engineering, regulatory affairs, and executive leadership all need to be aligned.
Otherwise, teams start pulling in different directions.
And that's where organizations get into trouble. One team may prioritize speed while another prioritizes compliance. Both objectives matter, but they need to be coordinated.
What did successful organizations do differently?
They create governance structures that allow decisions to be made quickly while maintaining visibility and accountability.
So, better communication and better decision making.
Beyond doubt, the organizations that scale successfully usually have strong cross functional collaboration.
What's interesting to me is that the lessons from GLP 1s probably apply beyond GLP 1s.
I completely agree. What we're seeing is really a preview of how the industry may need to operate for future breakthrough therapies.
More flexibility.
More flexibility, more resilience, and greater operational agility.
And probably a different way of thinking about manufacturing strategy altogether.
Absolutely. Historically, many organizations optimized around efficiency and predictability. Today, they also need scalability and adaptability.
Before we wrap up, what's the biggest takeaway for listeners?
The biggest takeaway is that manufacturing scale up is about much more than increasing output. Organizations need to think about supply chain resilience, quality systems, validation readiness, workforce capabilities, governance, and long term sustainability.
It's a business strategy discussion, not just a manufacturing discussion.
Correct.
And in this case, the organization was able to improve scalability, strengthen operational coordination, enhance supplier oversight, and maintain regulatory readiness throughout the expansion effort.
Which ultimately allowed them to support growing demand while maintaining quality and compliance expectations.
And that's really the goal.
I couldn't agree more, Eric.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode.
Thanks for joining us as we explored the manufacturing race surrounding GLP 1 therapies and what organizations need to consider as they scale for the future.
And if your organization is navigating manufacturing expansion, operational transformation, supply chain challenges, or regulatory readiness initiatives, Emma International can help. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Deep Dive Podcast.